This chapter will talk about media and technology. I'm going to define technology, talk about inequality that exists, talk about the role of media, and then finish with advertising. What is technology? Well, it's anything that is used to help improve people's lives. So, for example, any type of knowledge that is used to address everyday problems. Early technology used to be fire and stone, pencils, books. That's a type of technology that helped people live better lives. Now, of course, it's difficult to imagine those as technologies because we use devices that are very powerful instruments. Um, but they're still technology, even those low tech technologies, because they play important roles in our lives. We understand that there is inequality with the use and access of technology. The digital divide is where groups of people don't have access to the technology that we take for granted. For example, we may imagine that it's normal for everyone to have a television in every room, to everyone to have a computer, everyone to have a telephone, a cell phone, iPad, and that is not necessarily the case for all people in our culture. When you have a digital divide, it can lead to a knowledge gap. So if I don't have access to the computers or to the newest cell phone, I may not have access to information. And so that can create a gap in information accessibility and knowledge. I'm going to talk about different types of technology and media. The first one is print or newspaper. This is the earliest form of media that we had, and it's probably difficult for us to imagine that there was a time where the news would come 6 months late because it would have to travel in ships, or maybe a week late. Now, of course, we get information almost instantaneously. The issue with this is that it was difficult to determine if the information was trustworthy. So we wouldn't know where we if we were being told the truth. And part of the belief system in news is to sensationalize the news, that it's better to give us bad news than just be telling us good news all the time. Censorship is also an issue because if I am the directing a newspaper, I might decide that there are certain stories that we can't print because we might have advertisers drop us, or because the owner of the newspaper might not like the story. These issues are located as well or found in the other types of technology that I'm going to be mentioning. To a certain degree, there may be issues that are worse or issues that are not as bad in some of the other technology. Television and radio, this is where information and entertainment was available for the first time in real time. We didn't have to wait for it to get printed. We actually saw people moving and uh, forming their conversations in almost real time. The problem is that the control of information that exists in a few networks, this can have a very negative impact in society. There used to be a time where you couldn't own a newspaper, magazines, television, radio, because there were regulations that didn't allow that. Now that's not the case. Now you can have, and when that happened, when the regulations were removed, certain families or certain corporations moved in to basically take control of whole media outlets. And so with television and radio, it can have a very powerful socializing effect. What that basically means is that values and belief systems are introduced to us, and we may believe that this is how reality should be. Film then is a different type of technology. It tends to unify society by providing entertainment, where we may take time from our daily lives to interact with family, to see something that we feel is important or informational or entertaining. The issue with this is that it can reinforce stereotypes. And one of the biggest stereotypes is where minorities may be seen, especially males of colors, may be seen in roles that are very violent. We call that thugs or the thug role. And we may believe that that is correct, that these individuals tend to be this way, or when we stereotype women into being young and who have a certain body type. Another issue is that we tend to get exposed to a great deal of violence, and we'll talk about that in the chapter on gender. Finally, new media. This is where, for the first time, human beings can interact with the information they're being shown, the information they receive. Before new media, people had to be obedient. They were obediently observing or watching the information. This new media allows for individual to interact with it by liking it, by posting it, by putting a thumbs up, by sharing it. But something that's really important to understand is that digital information is not private. No information that is located in cell phones through servers is private. And so every text, tweet, chat, like, email, all of it is being collected and it's being stored somewhere. So we now come to media and the role that it has in society. Media and synergistic advertising is basically the practice of receiving the same message from a variety of sources. This can be very challenging because if I am receiving information on my phone and I'm hearing it through television and I hear it on the radio, I may think that the information is true, but it may be false, and we take it as truth because we're receiving the same message that has been coordinated through these networks, and we believe that we are being told the truth. Another challenge is that with these powerful devices that we have, we could have access to look at the world and in its diversity, in its how different it may you have other cultures, but instead of doing that, we choose to close ourselves off because we customize our experience. We decide to get only information that adheres to our worldview. So, for example, if I'm interested in fashion, I may not want to hear about anything else that's happening in the world except what's new for me to be able to either use makeup or have dress a certain way. Or I'm only interested in sports. So I don't want to hear about what's happening in the rest of the world. I only want to know about sports and the statistics. And so I close myself off to the rest of the world. Media globalization, this is where you have the integration of media worldwide. In other words, you have a corporate interest who are able to dominate the airwaves, not only in the United States, but in all over the world, where you can send your message to countries all over the world and you're able to influence reality. In the United States, 5 companies own 90% of mass media, and now the internet used to be the last place where it was considered the most democratic news outlet or media. But net neutrality was eliminated a few years ago, and now there's going to be greater censorship of the internet. And so we come to technological globalization, which is the exchange of technology worldwide. And there is a disadvantage for middle income and low income nations when high income nations are able to control technology and they're able to decide which type of technology will get introduced into the planet. And so it limits the access to some countries. In some countries, you may have communities that have access to no technology. So it worsens the digital divide and that knowledge gap. Another challenge is when you have high income nations who have the technological capacity to deliver their messages, their values, and belief systems. It can lead to cultural imperialism, where high income nations tell the middle income and low income nations how they should live, and maybe tell them that some of their cultural belief systems are incorrect by doing that. Functionalists believe that media and technology contribute to the society running smoothly by actually having a commercial effect. In other words, they sell us not only physical products, but they sell us values and belief systems. They work as entertainment. In other words, by entertaining us, we can spend time disconnecting from our society and actually being obedient in being entertained. They help us media helps society to help us to understand what are the behaviors that are appropriate for our society and thus norms functioning. But they also understand that there can be a dysfunction because people become not only overwhelmed with the information that they receive, but they may also come to the point where they are overly dependent on that technology. For example, it can be as a drug. If I go to the restroom and I can't leave my phone behind because I might miss something important in just those few minutes where I'm performing an important body function, that can be a behavior that can be almost addictive. And so they understand that we can be relying too much on certain types of technology. Conflict theorists believe that media and technology are a tool that is used to promote unequal access and inequality in society. They understand that, or at least media understands that the heart of their power is in deciding what information people are exposed to. And so those that have the most money to buy the time on the airwaves, they are the ones who have their point of view expressed in the media. Another challenge is that individuals, our societies are now under surveillance. Technology has made it possible to be able to monitor people's everyday life through having cameras on phones, smart technology in doorbells, having basically cameras everywhere in our society. And so people's everyday movements are being recorded. Another challenge for technology is negative gender images, and we'll go in depth in other chapters. And finally, symbolic interactionists believe that technology is used as an indicator of wealth and status. So, for example, if I have a flip phone, that basically tells my society that I am outdated, as opposed to getting the newest and the latest and the best, we're told, technology. And so you have different points of view. Some believe the pessimistic view says that technology symbolizes the coldness of a modern society, that people don't see each other face to face, that they tend to rely on their devices. They tend to put more importance in networks of people that they've never met rather than importance in the people that are physically around them. An optimistic point of view believes that technology symbolizes a great potential for a future that can be better, where we live in comfort, where it will be able to solve some of the issues and problems that we face. And so, symbolic interactionists, they also tend to study how media tends to form the perception of everyday reality for us.